or what the Prophet ﷺ called the Melhama. And from the perspective of Islamic eschatology, while the rest of the world of Islamic scholarship seems obsessed with teaching peanuts, that's all they teach, peanuts. From the perspective of Islamic eschatology, we know that the next major event to occur in history is going to be the Melhama, based on the hadith of the Sunan of Abi Dawood. Umran Bayt al-Maqdis, Kharabu Yathrib. Kharabu Yathrib, Khuruj al-Malhama. Khuruj al-Malhama, Fatul Constantiniya. Fatul Constantiniya, Khuruj al-Dajjal. That there are events which fall in a line, the timeline. The first being that Jerusalem emerges as center stage in the world. Second, that Medina is now in full-on desolation. And now the third, which these two already have come to pass, the third is the Melhama. Once the Melhama breaks out, which can take place any time now, it's going to be soon. How soon? I don't know. Nobody knows. But we know it's soon. Once the Melhama takes place, that's the cue for all of Algeria. We have an Algerian here. We have two Algerians here. We have three Algerians here, mashallah. Once the Melhama takes place, that's the cue for you in Algeria. That's the cue for you in Morocco and in Tunisia to head to join the army. The army that will conquer Constantinople. Because that's the prophecy of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. When I went to Moscow last July, and I informed them about Islamic eschatology, informing them that on the basis of Islamic eschatology, we know that there is a conquest of Constantinople that is coming, prophesied by the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why they have banned me in Turkey. They don't want the Turkish people to know. They don't want the Turkish Muslims to know that the conquest of Constantinople, prophesied by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, has not as yet taken place. No, it is to take place in Akhirul Zaman. Don't come with this rubbish that there are two conquests in order to fudge the books, to give some kind of legitimacy to Muhammad Fatih. Not at all. There's only one conquest of Constantinople prophesied by Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. That's the honest answer. So they were surprised in Rome, in Moscow. The Orthodox Christian world was surprised because they have the same prophecy. Christian eschatology is that Christianity is going to conquer Constantinople in Akhirul Zaman. And our Muslim eschatology is that Muslims are going to conquer Constantinople in Akhirul Zaman. And more than that, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam prophesied that there is going to be an alliance of Muslims with Rome. Now the pieces on the chessboard are being put in place. The first major move on the chessboard occurred just a few days ago, when Russia took control of Crimea. Why is Crimea so important in Akhirul Zaman? I'll tell you why. You don't need a PhD from MIT to know that the Great War that's coming is going to be fought with nuclear weapons. No. You don't need a PhD to know that once nuclear weapons start, it's going to be a fight to the finish. So thousands of nuclear weapons are going to be used. You don't need a PhD to know that not only would most of mankind perish, and most of mankind seems to deserve to perish because they've turned away from Allah. But more than that, that the radiation which will be emitted from the explosion of thousands of nuclear weapons is going to so pollute the atmosphere that the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that even birds will fall down. Why will birds fall down? Because the birds can no longer navigate the pollution of the atmosphere with electronic waves, electromagnetic waves and so on. The birds can no longer navigate. So if birds can no longer navigate, then that's goodbye to electronic warfare. That's goodbye to aircrafts. Nothing will fly after that. Nothing will fly after that. No cruise missiles can be used after that. No air-to-surface missiles can be used after that. No. Not after the Melhama. So the wars are going to be fought after the Melhama on the land and on the sea, not the air. And the wars are going to be fought on the land and on the sea. Now then, there's a straight line between Crimea and Constantinople. And we can now understand why the Zionists probably cannot digest the dinner after the events of the last few days. While the world of Islamic scholarship continues to sleep, so soundly are they sleeping, they're even snoring now. So soundly are they sleeping, they're even snoring now. But over the last few days, what has happened is that the straight line between Crimea and Constantinople is now clearly visible. And so the attack that will take place on Constantinople will be on the land and on the sea. The naval attack from Crimea to Constantinople, just across the Black Sea, and the land attack when the Algerians, and we have 3 Algerians here, the land attack by an army that Nabi Muhammad ﷺ praised when he said, لَتَفْتَحَنَّ الْقُنْسْتَنْتِنِيَّةِ, you'll most certainly conquer Constantinople. Notice I've never used any other name for the city. No. Notice I've said about Mustafa Kemal, you can get lost. You and all the Turkish people who worship you, get lost. If the Prophet of Islam referred to the city by the name of Constantinople, you cannot prevent a Muslim from using that name, because that is Sunnah, to use the name Constantinople. And so Constantinople is going to be attacked by an army, a land army. And the Prophet ﷺ praised that army. وَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ آمِرُهَا وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشُ. He praised the commander of that army, and he praised that army that is going to conquer Constantinople. And so the conquest of Constantinople will take place on the basis of an alliance with Rome. We've seen this part of the alliance, the army that's going to come from Algeria, Morocco, all over. And that part, which is going to be the naval one, coming in a straight line from Crimea to Constantinople. Once the city of Constantinople is captured, the back of NATO is broken. The Russian fleet can enter the Mediterranean. And that is going to be perilous for Israel. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give to our people a light with which to see and understand what so many today do not understand, and give them backbones to stand up and proclaim the truth regardless of the price we have to pay. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. In Islam we are prohibited from waging war on any people whatsoever. unless and until two conditions apply. That they commit aggression against us. And we are the victims of aggression. And that did not apply in the Ottoman Empire, no. And number two, that a people are oppressed. And they are weak and helpless and cannot withstand the power of the oppressor. And they, the oppressed, call on us for help. To which Allah responds in the Quran, وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ الظَّالِمِ أَهْلُهَا إلى آخر الآية. They are crying out for help. Send someone who will deliver us from this oppression. When the Muslim army marches to deliver them, the oppressed are going to welcome the army. Okay? No Christian in Eastern Europe ever welcomed the Ottomans. No. The population not only hated the Ottomans, but to this day they hated them. So this was a bogus jihad on behalf of the Ottomans. And it is shameful, it is disgraceful that Islamic scholarship cannot recognize that the Ottomans were waging a bogus jihad for 500 years. There is another philosophy which says that Islam has ordained eternal jihad against all the world until Islam imposes Islamic rule over the whole world. And when we impose our rule over you, you have a choice. You can remain Christian, or you can become Muslim. If you want to remain Christian, you pay jizya. But our duty is to rule the world. This is Dajjal's warriors, those idiots in Syria, those idiots in Libya. And I call them idiots. I call them fools. They're going to be angry with me. I know. One of these days they might want to come and even attack me. It doesn't matter to me. My answer to them is, you can kill a man, but you cannot kill the truth. So know, well, if thousands of nuclear weapons are going to be used in the Melhama, what are we to do? The answer is, life and death are in Allah's hands. If Allah has not written death for you, no one can take your life. And if Allah has written death for you, nothing that you do can prevent death from taking place. So you continue, proceed to act in accordance with the divine guidance in the Quran. The divine guidance in the Quran for Akhiru Zaman is in which surah? Surah Al-Kahf. That when you see the city stinking, the city collapsing, the city becoming Sodom and Gomorrah, governments enacting legislation that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate, then that's the time for you to act in the manner that the young men in Surah Al-Kahf acted. Withdraw from the cities. Tabligh Jamaat, let them remain in the city. Let Tabligh Jamaat remain in the city. Blind Tabligh Jamaat. Okay? And let them continue their gasht and so on in the cities. No problem. And they will get visas to go anywhere they want to go. Tabligh Jamaat will get visa. If they want to go to the moon, they'll get a visa to go to the moon. No problem. You and I, however, we withdraw from the cities. And we go to the countryside to protect our wives and protect our children and protect ourselves from the attack on faith which is taking place in the city. That is all. We are not leaving the city and going to the countryside in order to survive the Melhama. No. We are leaving the city and going to the countryside to preserve faith. I said that if the European Union and the United States impose sanctions on Russia, economic sanctions. The Russians have already declared it's tit for tat. We're going to retaliate. It is therefore inevitable that sanctions are going to be imposed on Russia through the banking system. Inevitable that you see the Russian ruble collapsing in value. When I was there in Moscow in July, the ruble was trading at about 33 rubles to $1 US. Yesterday I saw it at somewhere around 36. And I won't be surprised if in the next few days it goes down to 40, 45 and so on, as sanctions are imposed. I said that this creates an opportunity for us. If we can get and persuade the Russian government to declare gold and silver coins as legal tender. Once you declare it's legal tender, we can now trade with Russia. You can buy and sell. You don't have to transport the gold and transport the silver. No. All through history, they've always had mechanisms for handling this matter. That you will pay in Moscow to someone in Moscow, and this is his business. He has a store of gold, dinars and silver dirhams in Moscow, and he has a store in KL. Okay? So for a fee, you pay him in Moscow, and he'll pay the agent in KL, and your money is transported this way. Okay? So these businesses will immediately emerge. There'll be businessmen who, with business acumen, who know you need this kind of thing for transfer of money. And this will be outside of the banking system. The Zionists are going to grind their teeth in frustration.